Okay, so I thought I would start off with showing you all my bits and bobs on my bed that I've got so far of the costume, or like parts that are being made up of the costume, because none of it's really together and we have like 3 days, so but yeah, so basically this is my black and blue wig. I've had it for quite a while, I've had it for other things, but because the store I was getting the blue wig from, like Corpse Bride has, unfortunately they sold out, but they spoke to me yesterday and they said they might actually be able to give me a blue wig, so I might be wearing this. I might be wearing a dark blue wig. If I do wear this, I will be buying a can of dark blue hairspray though to make it more blue, because obviously as you can see it's mostly black, but this will be what, like, if this is my backup basically, because I don't have enough time to find another blue wig, because yeah, we have 2 days. And then here obviously I've got skeleton tights, 2 pairs of gloves, one being all kind of like wedding-y posh gloves, and then another pair being skeleton gloves. The reason why, because I'm not going to be able to face paint all of my arm, so I thought gloves would be a better alternative. And then here we might be using some of these, we might not. I've got 2 different colours of fabric dyes, like a dark blue and a light blue, and black spray paint, pins for sewing because I'm going to need that for the skirt, paintbrush, and then all these different acrylic paints, black, white, and all the different colour blues because I'll need that for the corset. And then this is just basically turns the acrylic paint into like textile paint, and you can put it onto fabric, so fabric paint basically it turns it into. This is the white corset. As you can see, it's just completely pure white, and I'll be changing that kind of like blue parts on it and stuff. Unfortunately I won't have enough to, like, I won't be able to sew any like little bits of flowers and stuff like I wanted to, but hopefully with the paint I can do something with it and make it more Corpse Bride. And here, and if you have me on Instagram you will notice that this was my clown costume for Halloween. It was like really 5-minute kind of, got a dress I already had, sewed some bubbles on, and then I ended up having a load of paint put on it. But this is actually what I'm going to hopefully try and use for the skirt. I'm going to, hopefully the blood will wash out. It might not. If it doesn't, that's fine, because I'm going to be using, which I don't have at the moment because they're at Kyle's, but I'm going to be using my splattered paint heels that I made for the Halloween costume anyway, so Corpse Bride but a bit more gory. So if it doesn't come out it's fine, but it should do because it was just like water-based kind of blood. But yeah, so that is going to be mostly because it's got like a trail at the back, and I liked how it had that, which is kind of Corpse Bride, but also hopefully I'll be using these paints to make it more like the character has. Also, I haven't got it on my bed right now, but I have some extra white kind of netted fabrics that hopefully I might use, I might not, to puff up the skirt and make it more like wedding-y. Okay, and then lastly, unfortunately, when it came actually to the shop, because I was there when it actually arrived, unfortunately one of the roses fell off, but that might make it easier because I've got to paint all of these black, because obviously she doesn't have white blood-stained roses, and she doesn't, when I saw the picture as well, I wasn't expecting it to, I was expecting the roses to be covered in it, like blood and stuff, but not the veil so much, so I'm going to see if it washes out, but that probably won't either, so probably best that I kind of stick with the whole blood splatter look, because it looks like a lot of my items will be covered in it. But yeah, but basically this is the closest to the headband in the time I could find, and then I'm going to be obviously DIYing all of these pieces to make the costume more Corpse Bride, but it'll be kind of last minute, very kind of shortly put together, so it's obviously not going to be perfect, but I'm going to try my best, so stay tuned. Okay, so firstly I thought I would start with doing the DIYing the veil, because it's just a short kind of, well, hopefully short kind of project to start off with, and then I can let the flowers dry. So basically we've got the veil already bought that I bought, obviously with the flower falling off, but it's fine because I can sew it back on. But and then all this white fabric that I found in my Halloween bag actually, because I was meant to have done like an It costume, but anyway, that was something else, but I had, obviously that didn't happen, so I had this already here, which is cool because my art stuff isn't actually at my house. So it's perfect that this happened to actually be here in the garage. So I thought maybe I could, obviously mainly this, I'm going to need this stuff for the skirt, but I thought because this is all covered in blood, I could, and her veil's a lot more longer and thicker than this, I thought maybe I could use something some of this to kind of make it more fuller and more like the costume. So just thinking what would be easier, to paint the roses black first, or... Okay, first I think I'm gonna take this obviously off the cardboard packaging and stuff and see if the blood actually washes out. I can't imagine it would, but I'm just gonna see what it will look like. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just about to fill up this sink with water. I've just turned it off now so you can hear me. And then I'll just soak in the veil and see what we get. I do think this is printed though, so we'll see. Okay, so as we're waiting for the veil to dry, because as I expected, it's like a printed, like the blood on the veil and the roses is like kind of been printed on or whatever, so there's no way of getting it out, which is fine, which might mean I might have to paint the veil a little bit white with fabric paint, or I might just cover it up in white fabric. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do yet, but it's a good base to start from, considering the time and stuff that I have, because I don't have time to just go out and buy fake flowers and just a random headband and then the fabric I've already got, because yeah, because where I live doesn't really have all of those supplies, so no worries. I'll just show you what I'm going to do with all of the roses. As this one has fallen off, I'll be able to show you what I'm going to do with it, basically because this rose unfortunately fell off in a way I guess it's kind of good, because I can show you what I'm going to do with it while the other things are drying. Okay, so as you can see, I got an old towel, and this is just from obviously because it's been Christmas and most of them were eaten, so I just put the others in another little dish. So because I thought this would be great for being able to paint the flowers on, but also to like leave it to dry, because I've got little dinky compartments for the roses to sit in. So yeah, so what I've got here is obviously an old towel, some tray for it to dry and like paint it on, that would be easier, and some just basic toilet roll, some black acrylic paint, like this stuff that makes the paint, the acrylic paint into fabric paint, brush, and the flower itself. So let's have a look and see how this is going to go. I might have to keep doing relayers because I don't know if it's going to go over the blood, like the fake blood, very well. But I also have a black Sharpie on hand if I really, like, if it's really that tough, or I'll just have to keep relaying it. So yeah, and also I can use this dish to put my paint in, so it's kind of like 3 things in one. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so basically I've literally just mixed the black acrylic paint with the textile medium to turn it into fabric paint now. You can see I've literally just painted that on, and so far, so there's a lot more I need covering it, but I don't, to my eye you can't really see the blood coming through. There's a little bit there I guess, but I think compared to how I thought it might come through, I think that's pretty good. So I'm just going to carry on with this until the whole rose is completed. And I'm literally not really doing any sort of technique or anything, I'm literally just covering as much as the rose, not leaving any white spaces or red spaces, and even this time I'm going to paint black. So okay, so I don't know if you can see because obviously the tray is black as well, but there is our rose. I'm not going to touch it because I've literally just washed my hands. So if you see from the other veils, that's how it started, and then that's how it became. You can still kind of see like red, like blood, like splotches in it. Like if you look closely, you can see a bit of red in it and splotches and that. But for me, it's going to be on top of my head. You're not going to see it that much, and I'm just going to leave it like that. I quite like how black that is and stuff. So, and the roses that Emily has on her head aren't like perfect anyway. Like they're quite messy and kind of worn anyway. And if she was murdered like she was in the story, then you know, just leave some fake blood on it. It'll go with my heels anyway. So yeah. So well, actually I will pick it up because you really can't see it on this tray. So if I quickly take it by one of the petals. Okay, so that is the finished flower. Nice little black rose. And yeah, so that's my first one. I am really tempted actually. I'm thinking it might be easier if I actually take the roses off the veil. But I'm not sure because I don't want the whole veil to come apart and it all to be ruined. But I think the roses are going to be easier if I paint them separately and then try and sew it back on, because obviously everything, this is quite a, like, you know, everything was just glued on, nothing was sewn or anything. And so I might try somehow, like, so the veil is still left on, but try and take the flowers off and then just sew them back in. So that would mean I would be able to not get black on the veil as well. So I'm going to try that now and see what happens. Fingers crossed. Okay, so it worked. So it was like, here are the flowers separately, and then as you can see, because it's obviously done with like a glue gun or something, you can see the little holes where the roses were. If you can just see there, that's where the stems were like in. So hopefully that I could just slot them in and then sew a few stitches around it really tight so they don't fall out. But yeah, so yeah, so this will hopefully make it a lot easier to do more to this fabric wise, and it's going to make it so much easier to paint the roses black. So yay! Okay, so I'm going to go and paint these roses, because the veil is still very wet, so I'm going to leave the veil to dry and get on with painting these roses black. Okay, you might not be able to see because of the lighting, and this fabric is kind of see-through, but it's kind of like shiny but see-through. I don't know how well it's going to paint. I'm going to do a tester in a second, but basically I folded a sheet of it in half, and then I'm just going to do a rough kind of shape like Emily has, his kind of bit like a kind of, I don't know, torn shape, and I will basically make sure I've got enough of the veil, probably paint the edges like black and then fading into like dark blues and light blue, leave the main of it kind of white, and then she's got like that swirly pattern on it. So I decided this fabric I think would be better. We'll see in a minute. Sorry about my nails because they're still in black from the roses. But I'll see how well this paint gets. I'll see how well this paints on. If it doesn't paint very well, we may have to go to one of the other fabrics. But hopefully it should all be okay. Okay, so as you can see, the pins in the fabric are basically where I've marked it, wrapped it around the headband, and then marked it onto the fabric. So now basically I'm going to probably either pin or draw out the kind of basic shape of the veil, then cut it. I was thinking about maybe sewing it, but it might be just easy because it's going to take a long while to sew it and we don't have that much time, so I might just leave it laying on top of each other because it's probably just going to be the front part I paint anyway. So yeah, so I'll just cut a rough shape out and then start painting. So as you can see, where all of these little pins are is the basic shape of how I want, kind of what width and size I want the shape of the veil kind of baseline to be in. So that's why I put a little guideline of pins. It's also a lot quicker doing it this way. As you can roughly see, I really roughly kind of drawn like a black outline of the kind of swirly kind of, well not swirly, but kind of jaggedy shape for this kind of how I want the veil to be. And then I'm going to do some more painting. Okay, so basically I'm going to use this blue quickly to put the first layer on, kind of around the edges but further in than these other two colours that will go. So basically we'll go this first, then closer to the edges this, and then on pretty much the edges will be black. So okay, so this is how I started off, literally painting up against the edges and then kind of just going like that with my finger to make it a bit more messy. And yeah, so I'm going to do this all the way around the outline, about that much we can said. Okay, so this is me this is a bit rushed, but this is how the veil came out on the first layer of paint. Obviously I kind of went a bit crazy because Obviously kind of worrying about time and stuff like that. But I quite like how it's come out, because her veil's quite ripped up anyway, because obviously it's Corpse Bride. So I kind of like the effect that I got with the paint marks and stuff. All I need to do now is go around the edges in black, cut it out, and sew it to the veil. Oh yeah, and I need to let this dry first, obviously, but in dark blue I need to do like the kind of swirly things she's got on her veil as well. But first, kind of good timing because I need to go out now, but I need to let this completely dry. So I'm just going to leave this here and let it all dry.